The goal of this presentation today is to inform you of the security vulnerabilities within ASP.NET applications. To do this, I will help you recognize these security vulnerabilities so you become more aware of them. I will provide a recommendation to fix these vulnerabilities, helping you create more secure applications for your customers. ASP.NET applications can be very susceptible to attacks. We need to address these weaknesses to prevent attackers from obtaining confidential information. Attackers may use this information to steal from your users or to disrupt your applications. I used multiple resources to gather data and facts to back up my recommendation. I looked to some web publications that explain some of these vulnerabilities in detail and give solutions to them. I also referenced a text on ASP.NET Security where I found some solutions to one of the vulnerabilities I will be discussing later. Lastly, I gathered some statistical information showing just how susceptible to attacks our applications can be. A group called White Hat gathered statistical data between 2006 and 2010 where they measured vulnerabilities periodically in an effort to measure the security flaws in different types of web applications, ASP.NET being one of them. The first image shows that ASP.NET applications have, on average, 470 inputs per site. These inputs translate to the amount of attack surface these applications have. On the bottom row, the average ratio of vulnerabilities to number of inputs is shown. This means that due to the amount of vulnerabilities found by White Hat, almost 10% of each application is vulnerable. This next image shows the amount of time taken to fix a security vulnerability based on the type. These times translate to costs for our company. This cost can easily be reduced by addressing these issues before the applications go into production. There are three vulnerabilities I'll be focusing on: configuration vulnerabilities, authentication vulnerabilities, and SQL injection. In our application configuration file, there are certain values that pertain to security that, if not set correctly, can result in security vulnerabilities. If you do not have a proper method of authentication in place, unauthorized users can access your applications. User input values, such as usernames and passwords, eventually are checked against database values. These require a query to the database. If these inputs are not checked properly, an attacker may gain access to confidential information or be able to manipulate data they should not be accessing. Following these three steps to prevent the three vulnerabilities I described, the first step is to go into your web configuration and set the following values. There is a custom errors tag with a mode that can be modified. Edit this mode to remote only or on. In the trace enable tag, there is a local only option that can be set to true or false. Set this to true. Within the compilation tag, there is a property called debug. Set this property to false. Within the HTTP cookies tag, set the property HTTP only cookies to true. In the session state tag, set the property cookie list to user cookies. Within the forms tag, set the property require SSL to true. Again, in the forms tag, set the property sliding expiration to false. Still within the forms tag, set the property name to something other than the default. And finally, remove the credentials tag from the forms section. The second step is to set up proper authentication. This can be done by having the user authenticated before they enter any part of the application or at each method within the application. Third, when querying the database, instead of using values directly from inputs, create parameters to assign these values. Another option would be to create stored procedures which take parameters. In conclusion, there are many security vulnerabilities to consider in our ASP.NET applications. You must take action to prevent these vulnerabilities and protect your confidential information. Following my step-by-step recommendation will help you to create a much more secure application and save you time and unneeded cost. These are the resources I used to make my recommendation.